Frank Steslow, and it's president of the Patricia and Phillip Museum of Science. My background after I had a short career in environmental science was really in the public aquarium realm, and so I played sort of the lead role with regards to the aquarium and the technical aspects of the construction. But then on the general museum operational side, it was really, the finance, accounting, daily sort of dealing with the visitors, guest services, and then being integral as a partner with the rest of the leadership team in developing the concepts and the ideas for the exhibitions for the new projects. We have a great team in place who can manage the day-to-day operations once the new building is open, and are now managing the planning of the opening and the finalizing of the construction. So it's really working with the board and working with the community and looking, I think, a little bit further ahead about what happens post-opening and how we strategically plan for this to be, the cultural asset that we all want it to be. I think the unique thing about our project is, the content spans a pretty wide area. It's environmental science, it's sort of planetary science, astrophysics, traditional science and engineering. So I think that, there's just maybe a broader base of sort of requirements and skill sets, and I think from a community perspective, we hope that that also translates into a broader base of community support and visitorship. And, I think that's the only sort of major difference, whereas, maybe other museums tend to have a little more focused audiences, focused curatorial staff, and here we have a lot of people with a lot of different expertise. No, there's absolutely pumps, filters, backup electrical systems, generators, all of those things that are just not only for the animals, but for the patrons, for the life safety of the patrons, to run elevators and lighting in the event of emergencies, those types of things. So it's a complicated project with a lot of moving pieces, a lot of infrastructure that maybe a traditional kind of black box museum might not have. It's also been designed intentionally to be both an indoor and outdoor experience. And that creates design challenges when you're trying to put exhibits in outdoor spaces and taking into account things like, the wind codes and building codes having to do with corrosion resistance and, being able to withstand 120-mile-an-hour winds. And so it's a little bit different than building an exhibit that goes, inside a building. We have a great core team right now of animal staff. You may or may not know that we have been doing wildlife rehabilitation at our old museum for a number of years, and that's been supported in large part by the Batchelor Foundation. That facility is really the core of our animal group, and now we've been expanding it to include the aquatic portion, which are the folks going to be taking care of the fish. And we're building an off-site environmental center to replace what's in the Coconut Grove location, which is at the north campus of FIU, or just south of Oneida River. So that team will both be operating that facility and the museum here. And we'll be able to continue with doing the rehabilitation. We'll be able to work collaboratively with FIU on research programs, have interns, students working at the facility. So tremendous opportunity for that. We really wanted to focus on the South Florida environment. So the exhibits, for the most part, are components or pieces of the main habitats you'd find here in the aquatic and sort of transitional zones that occur. So the largest exhibit is representing the Gulf Stream, and it's a 500,000-gallon exhibit, and very unique tank design, unique presentation, but that will have things that people may be familiar with, but in a different context. So large game fish like mahi-mahi and tuna that people are eating all the time, but they may not necessarily know what they look like, how they behave, what's important about them in the ecosystem. That will also have some of the large predatory sharks, schooling fish, and other things. Then we have coral reef exhibits, we have mangrove exhibits, we have beaches, we have an exhibit representing the Florida Bay, and we have a freshwater hardwood hammock transitioning into sort of a sawgrass habitat. And those become kind of multi-species, both aquatic, terrestrial transition zones, live plants, birds, fish together. So another challenge to maintain those populations together, but I think a really interesting presentation. And hopefully something that will lead to a larger appreciation of those habitats and get people to go out and explore them. Whether they're here as residents or they're visitors, you know, this is an opportunity to get a little taste of what the Everglades are, but they really need to be excited to go out and explore it. Sure, so the aquarium is one of the 4 buildings. The complex has 4 separate buildings. The aquarium is 3 floors, roughly about 700,000 gallons total. And that in and of itself is a fairly significant aquarium that you might have as a standalone aquarium somewhere else in the country. We then have 4 other large permanent science galleries with different content ranging from, you know, health and nutrition to space to sort of evolution and the bigger kind of ideas of science. And then we have quite a few flexible spaces that are developed for temporary exhibitions, traveling exhibitions, and programs. And all of those spaces will be fitted out for the opening. The permanent exhibitions will be fitted out, and the aquarium. And then we have the planetarium on top of all of that, which is not just a planetarium, it's really a digital 250-seat theater that has super high resolution, you know, 8K projectors, sound system, laser system, so we can do our laser shows, but also then doubles as a venue for lectures, live presentations. So very flexible use, and we can change the programming, you know, multiple times a day, or we can change it seasonally.
That's what I'm excited about.
So we're excited about the combination of that is all relatively unique. The only facility in the country that's at all comparable would be the California Academy of Sciences in Golden Gate Park. They have a smaller aquarium, they have a planetarium, and they have a natural history museum, whereas this is more of a hands-on sort of interactive science museum. But that would be about the closest. First quarter of next year. We're wrapping. We think we'll have all the construction wrapped up in December, and substantial completion. Right, so a few months. And then the exhibitions are, for the most part, being fabricated off-site in a host of different cities. Those will be delivered, installed, set up. And the real question is, how soon can we kind of tweak and coordinate all of those exhibitions to make sure that it's ready for opening once the construction is done. Right, so all of the things I mentioned are developed. And they're in various stages of fabrication at the moment. And they'll be staged, they'll be delivered here over the next few months. Some will be able to be installed relatively quickly. Others, we have to wait for the spaces to become fully conditioned because there's sensitive equipment that might be going in. So it's a process. And then not only is the installation a process, but turning them on, making sure that they work in the way they're supposed to. A lot of them are software-based, technology-based. They might need some modifications or some tweaking, so you have to have time to go through that process.